Hello and welcome to another adventurous episode of Confessions of a Rock and Roll Cameraman. Now, we're not really going to talk about rock and roll today, but we are going to talk about penguins.
Yes, sir.
I'm your host, Pat Canavan, and I'm in conversation with Tony Wanamaker.
Thank you, Pat. Awesome.
Now, Tony, one of our sponsors, is giving away a card for a great amount of value in their store. And Tony, how has Henry's helped us out in the podcast?
Well, quickly, a quick shot, cut to the wide shot, and we'll see a lot of the architecture. So we're using LED lights, right? Big output, great for the economy, great for the environment as well. So you see a lot of this equipment here. You see the tripods, the cameras. We're working with great cameras, the Canon R6s, right? Fabulous 4K. And a lot of the other production minutiae you can find at Henry's.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic for us.
Wonderful. Yeah. So how much are we giving away?
That'd be $100.
$100 gift card.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true. Thanks for tuning into our contest. This only happens when you sign up to the VIP list at CORNRC.com, Confessions of a Rock and Roll Cameraman.com. Now, Tony, you've rock stars, astronauts, sharks.
Yeah, cool.
Penguins.
Yeah, man.
Tell me, who hired you to go down to Antarctica to film penguins? How did you get there?
Well, we went with our friends Quark Expedition.
Quark.
Sorry. And I love those guys. They are the best in the business. There's a company that sails to the Arctic and they sail to Antarctica.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not like your cruise, and I love cruises, man. They're fantastic, by the way. This is an expedition type of cruise. So we have lots of scientists on board. I'm going down there in an ice vessel, right? So it's got a reinforced hull, huge engines, right? It has a certain ice rating to get through Antarctic waters.
Right.
And we're also, Pat, going down with a couple of people who are related to the heroic age of Antarctica polar exploration, which is amazing. So the descendant of Shackleton and the descendant of Scott.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
On the same boat.
Well, on the same boat. But today's agenda, which was amazing, because a lot of the times when you travel to great parts of the world, and don't forget, this is terra incognita, right? This is a mysterious seventh continent, right? So a very cool place to be in your life. Rare that a lot of people go there.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What time of year is it? Like, when did you go?
Yeah, so fortunately, the best time, and let me take this off, it's getting kind of hot. Just quickly, if I may.
Yeah, let's talk about this.
So yeah, this is what I would wear on a daily excursion, okay? So I have my inflatable, right, life preserver, and you'll love, this is my favorite one because I don't have to pull the pin for it to inflate. I just have to fall in the water, and the little tab here dissolves and finally does it itself. So if I'm knocked out, it'll lift me up out of the water.
Oh.
So I have this, and this is important because every time you get out of a Zodiac, you got to rush up on top of the shore in case nearby one of the ice shelves is caving, and then they cause a tidal wave, and you could be taken with that. So we wear these. Great, lots of pockets, highly reflective. Makes sense, right? When you're on a boat and you're looking for people, right?
Sure.
Okay, because Mother Antarctica is lovely, pristine, but boy, she can get nasty in a hurry if she's got an issue, right? So you got to be prepared for the worst element and enjoy the best that you can.
And was that warm enough for you to be in Antarctica?
This was the nice top layer. Way back in the day in the military, one of the rubrics we learned was loose and layered clothing. And so I wear a lot of loose and layered clothing. As you heat up, you can take a shell off. And so it's a lot like when you go shopping at your mountain outfitting store, right? You're going to get layers and maybe materials that'll breathe really well if you're sweating. So it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, sure. Yeah, because you certainly don't want to get wet underneath there.
100%, no.
Because you'll get hypothermia.
Yeah.
So, again, let's get back to what time of year does somebody go to Antarctica? When do you visit?
Let's have a quick little orientation. So you love this ancient globe, okay? It has no bearing on what any continent looks like, but we know it's a globe, a sphere, all right? So we're going to split the Earth in half, right? So right here's the equator. This is considered 0, right, on a map, right? And so it's 0 to 90. That's the northern hemisphere. This is the southern hemisphere, okay? And that's 0 to 90 down here. Rhonda, my wife, and who works with me on documentaries, we ended up actually going right around here, 86, which is pretty deep in the Antarctica. So what does that mean? Cool phenomenon happens yearly. The Earth is doing this. Wobble, you can call it, but scientists call it precession. And what happens when you have sunlight shining here, like this key light here, when it's like this, it's summer. And when it's like this, for these folks up here, it's winter, it's summer down here. So I'm down here in November, okay, November, December, which is the ideal time to visit Antarctica, okay? Because when it's summer here in July and you're enjoying the heat or maybe upset with the humidity, it's freezing down there.
I see.
Yeah.
So this is your like a pre-Christmas type of thing, and it's their thaw.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So it's they're thawing out down there, and
Yeah.
and that makes it more safe.
Yeah. Now, speaking of thawing out, I'm just going to get Elizabeth to give a close-up shot on this, Pat. This is called a tablature ice flow, and this is what breaks off every now and then from Antarctica.
Okay.
And we ended up traveling to the Antarctic Peninsula. And why that's unique, because close to us, and folks, look, Google it and look on your maps, is the Larsen Ice Shelf. And that's important because that's become the sort of the canary in the mine for us and for environmentalists. And we're really watching that as that ice shelf is melting.
Yeah.
And to put it in perspective, at the polar ice cap, there's at least 10,000 feet of snow, which is equivalent to 9 meters rise in the sea level if it melts. So you can imagine the devastation if we were to melt, so we have a rise in just 1 foot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you might run into those.
Oh yeah, they're floating there all the time.
All
What's
the
really
time.
cool,
And they're dangerous for you.
they're very dangerous, but that notion is erased once you see the cute little penguins on this. And I used to find a lot of Adelies on one of these tablatures.
Oh.
They're going by you, squawking, doing their thing. Yeah, cute.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, before we get knee deep into penguins, I want to know, like, what does it take to get down there? Like, you're not hopping on a plane here in Toronto and then ending up in Antarctica airport.
Yeah, and I'm a bit of a mariner, so I was really interested in all the nostalgia about maritime history.
Okay.
Because don't forget, Antarctica wasn't even discovered. It was considered terra incognita. It was a land that wasn't discovered yet, right?
Yeah.
And so we constantly make, just like we're exploring the heavens right now with the moon and ultimately on the Mars, because at the beginning of the 20th century, traveling to Antarctica was like traveling to Mars. And so we fly down modern, man, on a really great jet, great meal. We first go to Chile to Buenos Aires, and from Buenos Aires to Ushuaia, which is cool because that's in a neat place called Tierra del Fuego, the land of fire, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at the bottom of Patagonia. So it's cool because you get to go down the Beagle Channel before you come into the South Atlantic. And everybody knows our friend Charles Darwin, right? Cool. Very cool.
And then you took a boat?
Yes, and Pat, the irony is, I'm a sailor. I used to have a sailboat, 23-foot sailboat, sailed all the time. As soon as I get my first hit after I round, is it Cape Horn? As soon as I round that, I get hit with the first big Atlantic waves. I'm sick every day. For the next 17 days, I vomit every morning.
Oh.
Yeah, I think I'm saying it right. Forgive me, folks. I'm on Dramamine, right? So I have to take that. And the doctor says to me, he says, wow, at the third day, he says, you got to be careful. I think you're getting addicted to this. And I said, wow, stand in line.
How many people were sick?
How many people were sick?
Yeah,
it's hard to say. You know, there's a little thing back here that keeps us regulated called your vestibular, right? And mine was just going, woo, and I couldn't keep it together.
Yeah.
But that said, we were crossing the most dangerous seas in the world, folks, called the Drake Passage. And it's right at the bottom. Take a look again at the map at the bottom of South America. What happens is you get influences right from Pacific, Atlantic, and what's called the circumpolar waters that go around, freezing around Antarctica all the time. So they all mix. They call it the washing machine for a reason. Yeah.
Okay, why do they call it the washing machine?
Because you get these massive swells, and you might be able to show a clip or two what happens in bad weather. Stuff is strewn everywhere. On a boat, you learn one thing. Two things you learn. One hand, right, in your pocket, and the other hand always on the boat. You always got to be holding. And so the group before us were sick, tossed all around, poor folks, right sick every day. Mine was motion sickness, right? We had favorable seas, thank goodness. But a couple of interesting nights where I wouldn't look out of the porthole, that the waves were so high, and my equipment on the right side of the room, it was on the left side, and vice versa.
Well, this is fascinating because you are a scuba diver.
Yeah, man.
You're a water dude.
And here I was, I'm sick. I just
Wow.
wasn't ready for that maybe slow motion roll.
Well, how was Rhonda?
Fine.
Really?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
Terrific.
Yep. Yoko's always fine.
Amazing.
Always finds a way. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. All right, so then you get down, you've taken a ship down to Antarctica. Where do you land?
Yes.
And let's just start. We're like, where do you land?
Pat, fair enough, but the preamble to that is a couple of visits, and everybody's familiar with the Falkland Wars. You probably recall the British War with Argentina in '82.
Yeah.
So we ended up in Falkland Islands, which is like a little British hamlet in the middle of the South Atlantic Sea. Freakish, man. But coming to there, we start hitting ports of call, and that's where we start coming in to contact with penguins, because this is where they habitate, right? And so we stopped in two places that were unique, Falkland Islands and South Georgia. And South Georgia was wild, Pat, because it took me right back to Herman Melville, Moby Dick, man. This took me right back into the golden age of whaling, right, which was at the middle of the 19th century. Yeah.
What was there?
Relics, ghosts of the past, machinery that suggested whaling in a massive operation at that time.
Wow, and just abandoned.
Just abandoned. Electricity. Flick of a switch. Technology changes because people were whaling a lot there, Pat, because especially they call it spermaceti, which is in the head of the bulbous sperm whales. Okay. And Moby Dick eulogized that idea of the big sperm whale. But in here, they used to actually stick kids through the blowhole. They used to scrape the insides off because that material was perfect for making candles. And they were the best candles, the best burning candles. So when England, back in the day, wanted to cut down on crime because they wanted to light the city at night, they were using these type of candles. Yeah, wild.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, wild, eh?
That's amazing. Were there penguins there?
Yeah, that's where we first ran into them, and now I'm starting to see, and I don't know all the species, and I'll talk that I had the chance. I was working with a penguinologist. How often do you work with a penguinologist, right? But he was lovely. What a tour guide, because his insight was amazing. And he's one of those guys you can appreciate to manage to take science and break it down so like somebody like me can understand it, right? So that was great. But Pat, we ran into the Adelis, and folks, you're going to love this. My wife and I actually we're shooting a documentary, as you know, there, and we got nominated, right, for the best cinematography in a web series. Here it is in 2015 for that film. And Pat's going to run some of that, and you get a chance to see some of these cool penguins. And we love to teach seminars at grade school, and the little people, our little friends, love the rock hoppers. So you're going to see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these penguins now are they on Georgia Island or are they on Antarctica?
We're seeing them all throughout.
Oh.
But I'm seeing a really large collection of a really cute penguin here, and this doesn't do it justice, but we'll cut to a better shot of the king penguin, right? And it's fascinating.
And this is on Georgia Island?
This is South Georgia.
Really? South Georgia Island?
Yeah. And I was stuck by it because I went in and I knew that there was rock hoppers spotted, and it's really to see their ambulation, right? Like most penguins give us this indelible little, right? But these guys do a little hop at the same time. And then you get the macaroni ones that have this wild, it looks like an old guy with really rainbow eyebrows.
Yeah.
Bizarre. Somebody in a masquerade, maybe. I don't know. But really endearing little fellas. And coming back, Pat, as I was blown away. I knew I couldn't get deep enough in Antarctica that we're going to see the emperor, right? The emperor is about, imagine something that's almost a little over a meter, about 4 feet high, right?
Okay.
The kings are about a meter. They have a beautiful plumage. You see some orange and yellow and black on black eyes, and a gorgeous animal. I was so moved by the kings.
So, South Georgia Island, you leave there.
Yes.
And then you make your way down to whereabouts in Antarctica?
Oh, okay. So on the way in, we're going to talk about this in another episode. It's fantastic. We're going to stop at Elephant Island, and I'll explain that in another episode. But we continue in, and we're now going to trace the peninsula of Antarctica, and we make stops along the way. But prior to that, I was in a lovely place, unbelievable, and this is one of those indelible moments you never forget. Sunshine is beautiful coming up. Yeah. I'm in a place called Fortune Bay. Good name, right?
Sure.
And while I'm there is a rookery, Pat.
What's a rookery?
A rookery is a penguinology for a collection of penguins, right? So you can call it a colony or a rookery. Colony sounds a little too militant, and they look like they're cuddly little guys, so I like the rookery, yeah.
Wow, how many are in a rookery?
We ended up in a rookery in South Georgia, and the penguinologist took me into the heart of it. 250,000 pairs of penguins were there. Now, Pat, that's a lot of penguin feces.
Yeah, no doubt.
So if you don't have any barn training, I'm from the county, kind of used to it, kind of not. that's a little pungent, man. Yeah.
Well, these are things you don't even think about, right? Because they're so cute, cuddly, and whenever I've seen pictures...
My nose still hurts when I hear that song, Penguin. Sorry.
Well, I guess it's very like high, stingy kind of...
Yeah. Oh, high and stingy. That you just cued me on this. The thought that what was fascinating in that large group,
Yeah.
a sea. So it's 5 times the size of this city, right? Of penguins, right? And I'm looking out, and the penguinologist is telling me that here's something unique to the species. So if one of their offspring who are walking around with the big old fur coats, right? And they look like they're cheering at a 1930s ball game, right? With a little pendant, right? They're just going and squawking and making their own fuss. If they're squawking, mom and dad can be miles away, whatever their auditory range is, and they can hear that distinct pitch unique to them. So in that group where all that's going on, and I did some recording. See, there's a great shot here of a Gen 2 penguin coming down a hill, and folks, you got to hear that sound. It's amazing. They're calling out, communicating. It's distinct and unique to them.
So the parents can hear the kids very far away. You know, I saw something like that with cheetahs in the wild too. You know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, they survive by chirping.
Oh,
because
yeah.
You know, the cheetahs can, as you know, can take a big kill.
Yes.
But they can't drag it back to their pups.
Yes.
And so they chirp out, and then the pups hear and come to the...
Which is a great way to maintain camouflage and communicate without another predator taking your baby away, right? Good
and
idea.
so, so penguins do the same thing. The babies chirp out. Well, I guess all birds have that sort of inherent...
Yeah, that would make sense. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, to that point, the penguins, we know of their beautiful white plumage on the front and black, the tuxedo look, right? I mean, that's purposeful. I mean, that's by design, man. They call it counter shading. And the reason for that, think about survivability again, right? So when a penguin is looking for, and the biomass they feed on down there, folks, is krill, and we'll talk about that in a second, but when they're looking down into the Antarctica waters, right, the leopard seal, big predator, very dangerous, looking for the penguin. Whales, right? Orca whales, man. You kidding? So when they look up and they see the white against the sky, right, it confuses them. They're not sure if it's a target or not.
Oh,
so
I see.
Now, you're always thinking about survivability in Antarctica. So when your back is to the sun and it's black, you're absorbing heat, you're staying warm, right? So these things are working. The other predator for the penguin from above is called the skua. Skua is a big bird, dangerous. Reminds you a little bit of our seagulls, pissed off seagull.
Oh, wow, okay. But bigger.
Yeah. But bigger and very dangerous.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, okay. So, because there has to be predators, you know, even though it's so harsh and cold a climate.
Pat, it was interesting because I was observing a lot of this and I was wondering how on earth, you're constantly kind of thinking, how do you survive when we leave here? It's summertime in Antarctica. Still lots of snow, it can be cold, storms come in, but we're there. And I can't imagine what it'd be like there in July, which is our February, and how cold it is. And so, that being said, who would walk outside and hang outside in your bare feet in February? Few of us would do that.
Yeah.
Penguins do that. And I was wondering how did they possibly do that? Apparently they have a different type of circulatory system. So I guess ostensibly they're alien, right?
Sure.
Right? That allows a huge blood flow to the feet, constantly warming their feet so they don't burn. Now, folks, if you get a chance, great documentary, March of the Penguins, watch that because they really delve into that.
What do you mean so that they don't burn?
Well,
I mean, they're on ice, aren't they?
They're on ice, but something that cold. Right? And if you've seen a March of the Penguins, they transfer an egg because every now and then somebody's got to go fishing. We got to have food.
Right, of course.
And when they do that, they have to transfer the egg. And they do that meticulously and they have to lock their feet together and they transfer the egg. Now, if the egg slips off the feet, as soon as it makes contact with the ground, it's over. That's it.
It's done.
Done.
Yeah.
Amazing. So delicate, right?
So when you're there, it's warmer. Are they in the peak of their mating season? Like, what are you filming?
Oh, okay. So I'm fascinated at their ambulation, really, in the colors. That's really my interest, right? I'm making a film for little people. I'm making a film called Pristine Antarctica because I generally believe, and I've been very fortunate, Pat, as you know, I've been to every continent on the world. I've seen lots of natural habitats. So my argument is that we should continue this trend, folks, visiting animals in their natural habitat. So it's cool for a couple of things: conservation, right? And also think of the economy for countries like Kenya, Tanzania, offering safaris, for example, trips to Antarctica. The thing is, you say, well, that's a lot of people heading south to check things out, but it's regulated. There's conservation in practice. For example, Pat, you're not allowed to approach a penguin. They don't want you coming up to them. You have to be 5 meters away, minimum.
Because of COVID?
That could very real be a possibility. That you're saying, sad but true, that could be an issue, right? So you maintain distance because we don't want to contaminate it, and they want to keep it pristine.
Let's talk about contaminants.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're coming from a world that's mechanized and full of people and germs and whatnot. You get down there. What do you guys do to mitigate any impact on the environment?
Well, what I love is they really got sort of camping protocols. And we all know this. Anybody who's camped in Algonquin knows what you take in is what you take out. So if you have a number 2, you better plan your day better, right? Or you've got a task ahead of you. That's the issue. The other is they use antibacterial so that when we come back on board, you have to clean your gear. You have to clean your gear before you go. Every couple of days, we're mustered to a station to vacuum all our stuff before we make another landing. Right.
Okay.
So they're really on their part fantastic, trying to maintain conservation and also not disrupt the animals. There's always guides with you to tell you to pull back or keep a heads up. For example, the elephant seal is a massive creature who was mating.
The elephant seal.
Yeah, and this guy was looking for his harem, and if you're in the way, you're crushed. Didn't matter. So Rhonda, always diligent, was always watching my flank. I was engrossed in shooting some scenes, and you'll see it come up, to make sure that when this locomotive came from the water and making its way to beach, that it didn't kill me on the way. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
The other guys I had to watch for were the fur seals. These were incorrigible little dogs always barking at you, right? And if you weren't careful, they'll finally sneak up and they will bite you, right? And so Rhonda would have to stand there like the scarecrow, right, in Wizard of Oz, and intimidate them. So the bigger the size and the yellow jacket, they would finally back off. But you had to hold the ground. And you'll see a shot where I'm lying on the ground, sneaking a shot, and a couple of guys are coming in. I think they're getting close to biting me before Rhonda came in and saved my ass. Yeah.
Oh, that's truly fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, these penguins and whatnot, they're more eloquent in the ocean eating than they are on land. Let me just ask you: did you have to film in the ocean? Did you have to go in the water?
I did, and I did by trick because because I told you earlier I don't like diving cold water, and I don't want to do dry suit ice dives. It's not my thing. It's just not where my head is. So I got around it. So what I did is this is called a fishbowl, folks. I use something like this, right?
Okay.
And this one is for audio. That's why that connector's there. But anyways, I used something like this, and I put a camera on the end of it. Okay. So I had a Zodiac driver, and then I popped this in the water, right? And I had this thing going down about maybe 9 feet.
Okay.
And this is great because take a look at the shot. You're going to see this, folks. I'm going under an iceberg, right? It's really neat. You're just going to see the undercarriage. When all of us know that 9/10 of an iceberg is underwater and 1/10 is above. Sure. You're going to see this phenomenon. The other thing with icebergs, you got to really be careful. You got to watch when you sail up them. They can cavitate anytime.
Sure, yeah,
so
I heard about that. Right? Yeah, you never know.
You could be right at that fulcrum point. So coming up to it, I pop this in the water. And there's one of my favorite shots of all time, it's in the movie, is when you see this thing coming up, breaking through the water. And it's breaking through beautiful sort of impressionistic colors and stuff, and then finally locking on the iceberg. Gorgeous, man. Loved it.
Wow.
Yeah. Equipment, this thing here too, folks. This thing here is called the slider, Pat. And what I do is I put a camera on here, perfect for DSLR, and I slide this thing across. Okay? So if I wanted a cool foreground with our penguin, I put him here or her, and then I slide this camera in and out. Nice foreground movement, and then maybe rack to that background. Very cinematic practice. You see this a lot in movies, folks. They like to move it. Rather than get too much of the science of what that does to you psychologically when you see a movement like that, I'll tell you, have a look at the picture when I'm in Fortune Bay, and this is what I was talking about earlier with the Emperor. And
the Emperor penguin? Yeah.
So the King penguin. Sorry, Pat.
King penguin?
My mistake. The King penguins. And you'll see some beautiful, you'll see that slider movement there. And then you'll see it again with the rock hoppers. And that's the first time, folks, that a slider's ever been used in Antarctica.
Let me ask you this, because that's really amazing.
It's totally cool, man.
And the only reason it's that way is because of modern design.
Yes. Well, I could carry this in my backpack. So now I've got this here, Pat, so I can make it. And there's only 2 of us. Don't forget, you don't got a big... we don't have a big footprint. There's only 2 people working and have to come up with a shot. So the other thing we do is we carry all our equipment and these things, Pelican cases, and I credit them because shockproof, right? And it's waterproof. This falls out of the Zodiac. You can hook it and bring it back in.
So it kind of even floats.
It totally floats. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, how many cameras do you take down on a shoot like this? Because space must be limited.
Space is limited, so I have 2 bodies, right? And a number of lenses. And what I'll do is I'll send you a picture where you see, and Rhonda every night has the lenses, because every night you got to clean fronts and backs. We got to download material. We got to prep for the next day, batteries charge. And we do 3 trips a day, I think, Rhonda. Rhonda's just over here. 3 trips a day. And the first one sometimes starts at 5 in the morning. Yeah. So we get very little sleep. It's like clockwork.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I would have liked to had 5 cameras, Pat. And now that with that experience, I would have other ones lined up. But I always had 2. I had a spare body, my main camera working. Actually, the camera shooting the wide shot is the one that shot the movie.
Oh, really?
That's the principal camera, yeah. Hey,
Hello.
wide shot. and yeah, I only had 1 near miss, 1 breakdown. Had to sail all the way back to the ship, get the second body. I should have carried it that day. Didn't. Once I got it set up, that camera worked again. It goes in the machine, brother.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I guess you charge everything on the ship.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
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 Yeah, because like, how do you maintain power and things like that? I mean,
I went from nostalgic, romantic notions of exploration, the heroic age of polar exploration, and then I got on a 4-star ship and I had steak. I think I had orange sorbet for dessert, and I had a great hot bath before I got ready for the next terrible day.
Well, that's better than KFP, Kentucky Fried Penguin.
Speaking of,
what?
Well, people love that cuddly creature.
They do.
They do.
Who doesn't love a cuddly creature?
And one of the guides was telling me, and this killed me. He said, this is probably the epitome of penguin affection, I would think. Unbelievable. So what happened was there was somebody on board one of the charters and said,
Okay.
do not come into my room. Please do not come in. Don't clean it. Okay. After a couple of days, the pungent smell that we've been smelling in South Georgia and Antarctica and the Falklands, it's like, what's going on? So finally, the ship's crew, they're adamant. They're going to open this door.
Well, sure. What the heck?
They open. It's covered with feces. And a penguin's in there, right? And I went, this guy smuggled a penguin on the ship. And I got to wonder, Pat, because you saw the gear I had on earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you're going to hear, you folks have heard the sound of the penguin. Also, has a bit of a rustic kind of odor, right? And it's lovable, but it does. It's living, right?
Yeah.
And how could you not notice this thing moving around like 2 squirrels fighting under your yellow jacket and not call it?
What kind of penguin was it? Do you remember?
No, I have no idea what he picked up. Maybe it was the King for the colors or the Gentoo because it's easy.
This is insane. Like, where had you guys left already and were heading back home, or like what did you do? What happened to the penguin?
Yeah, I have no idea. I really don't want to know the outcome other than the penguin was put back to where the penguin
Where
his family, right?
Oh,
take me home, right? Free Willy.
Yeah, because I can imagine when you say the size. What was it? 250,000 penguins in one rookery.
Yeah, the aquatic bird, right? The flightless bird, right? That flies actually under the ocean.
Well, that's an amazing. Like it's a community.
Yeah, man.
Right. And you take one out. Well, of course they get eaten because of nature, and leopard seals and all of that. They get eaten.
That's an ugly animal. I never saw a leopard seal. I kept looking for it. Terrifies me. It's like a skull with skin wrapped over it. Take a look at the picture, especially when it shows its teeth. Frightening, man.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Another reason I'm not going to dive there.
So you were down there with an amazing adventure, an amazing partner. You were there with your wife.
Yes.
You worked together.
Yes.
You were both looking at penguins. How many, just before we go, How many types of penguins are there?
Wow, and I defer to our penguinologist. I have no idea. I saw probably 4 species, right?
So you guys shot 4 species.
That's what I did, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
These are adventures. These are absolutely
Awesome, man. Thank
thrilling adventures. No one's getting killed.
Yes.
No one's getting hurt, but they're true life living adventures.
Nice things to experience, man. Nice things to share.
Yeah, and I'm really glad to share them with you here.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into our contest. This only happens when you sign up to the VIP list at CORNRC.com, Confessions of a Rock and Roll Cameraman.com. And we'll see you next time.